Okay, so this is my unusable widget project. Before I explain the different principles, I'm just going to do a quick demo. So this is, it's called Bright Squid. It's a brightness adjuster, and as you can see at the bottom it says force of hit. So the brightness of the app, or rather the second image that we're adjusting, is based on the amount of force that we hit the screen with, which is the pressure variable in Dart. However, as we can see, if we have a force of 1, we only get a force of 1. We hit it lightly, force of 1. And we hit it more hard, we only get a force of 1. So all it does is turn the image completely black. And it turns out the reason for this is because the Kindle, as well as many other devices, does not actually have a way of detecting touch strength. So while that exists in Dart's API, and it is a variable that's returned to us, it's always returned to us as 1 because the Kindle doesn't have 3D touch like an iPhone does. Oh, and there's one other thing that it does. So if I hold this for a while, or if I'm sliding, it turns gray. And I will explain that in a minute. So the two things it does: darkens the image completely, or if you hold it long enough, darkens the image halfway. And the moment you release your finger, it stops. So the principles that this violates, the first one is bad mapping. Because not all devices detect touch strength, any device that doesn't detect touch strength is just going to get a black image, which obviously isn't very efficient for a brightness adjuster. So the relationship between the controls of this app and their effects in the world isn't well defined unless you have an iPhone that uses 3D touch, or I guess another similar device. I'm not sure if other companies make those. So another example of the principles this is violating is bad consistency. And the reason for the bad consistency is rooted in the fact that we have two different ways that we can adjust the brightness. The first one is the force of touch, which obviously doesn't work well to begin with, and the second one is the length of touch. And not only that, but the length of touch doesn't do anything other than make it gray. And so this is basically an inconsistency. These two methods of changing the brightness are not related at all, and it would probably confuse the heck out of any user that would be using this. And the last principle that this violates is the principle of having bad constraints. Because the image is only darkened as long as you have your finger down, and it can only be up here. The longer that it's down doesn't really make that much of a difference other than turning it to gray. But the fact that it immediately goes back to a normal image after you release your finger is a very inconvenient and unnecessary constraint for the user. So that's that, my amazing brightness adjuster, which violates 3 different principles of user interface design and is very unusable. Thank you.